Chapter 34, A Question of Succession. Dr. John Dee is with Sir Francis Walsingham at the Spiral Bookcase, London, EC3M1HD. I have talked with Burley already. There will be an extraordinary meeting of the Council and I need your vote. You have to back us up, or else we are sunk, and dire consequences will follow, my dear fellow. Dire consequences. He pointed with menace out of the shop window and across to the pub that I had recently vacated. Its sign shone in the weak, wet sunlight. The implication was obvious. And of course you will help me, us, or else. He coughed and directed my gaze to the pub sign again. We may have to look at those South Sea shares that you have been promoting to the unwary in certain coffee houses and dens of iniquity, such as the Magpie Inn, for instance. His eyes stopped their swivelling for the tiniest of moments, and their cold brown stare bored deep into my soul. I waved my hand, and a slight popping sound could be heard as my recent purchases disappeared from sight. I'm afraid my studies have me fully occupied just now. Perhaps I could help in some other way. Not unless you can do a little magic. I spluttered a cough, if you can splutter coughs. What we need is an heir, and right smart, then this king, well, his voice trailed into silence. Not much chance of that though, is there? The Queen is still so young, barely out of her teen years, and with Gaveston, he turned his head and glanced about quickly. Always hanging around. I swear he makes the whole thing intolerable. We never had these problems with the old king. Now there was a man. He knew how to deal with people, get what you want out of them, or off with their heads. No messing, swift, efficient. Yes, there was a great man. I pursed my lips as I remembered Edward Longshanks. He had been a big bully, a brutal beast of a man who got his own way with no messing about. Still, he was effective, you couldn't deny that. And Walsingham was right. Something did need doing about this king. He was placing the whole empire in danger. I remember his grace, of course, a man of action, if nothing more. Tell me, what do you think we can achieve with the council? They have very little powers to control the king. He could simply ignore us. What? Never. We could never stand for that. Walsingham spluttered, seemingly surprised by my suggestion. But my dear sire, he already has, as you say, the coronation, for one. And I am sure there are more extravagances. But that is your department, sire. The weak sunlight fought against the grey clouds, and for a moment it gained the upper hand as it spread throughout the room, its soft glow lighting up an image of stormy clouds and the thunder. The poster advertised a performance at the Devil's Cauldron. Walsingham and I hid in the shade of an arch, like two spies discussing a secret agenda. Well, did you ever? The opening riff of that last concert ran through my mind as I remembered that fateful night, Stormy Clouds, the Hibernian bard, and his incredible band, the Thunder. Stormy always appeared with his bruised and battered 5-string lute, which he plugged into his Sheriff's sound expander, a wondrous steam-operated sound generator. It had been a great show. I had attended with my young friend, Thomas Devereux. It was now revered as the greatest concert of all time, and everyone you ever met claims that they too were in that crowd. Unfortunately, it was also Stormy's last concert. His sound expander had done just that, exploding halfway through the last song of the set, sucking him into a vortex of colour and smoke, and he disappeared, right there on the stage, with a whoosh and a bang. He was never to be seen again. Of course, the crowd became delirious with excitement, believing it to be all part of the act, but alas no. It was soon revealed that Stormy had been whisked away to another world. Oh, what a night, what a show, the grand finale, what a way to go. I was brought back to reality with a bump as Walsingham coughed and his short stabbing finger found my solar plexus. His dead dark eyes, the colour of a newly dug grave, bored into mine, and his eyebrow, which ran from left to right and quite possibly back again in a continuous loop, gave a shrug not unlike a caterpillar hurrying across a rhubarb leaf. If there is no heir, what would we do then? The brothers, Thomas and Edmund, or maybe Anjou? I asked the question, once my wind had returned to the present. The pain in the pit of my stomach helped me focus. Young men both, and whilst one possible future, through their mother, Margaret of Francia, that would bring peace and lands, definitely worth considering, and possibly the obvious choice, but there will be conflict, whoever we choose. He paused, and one eye looked around the room, whilst the other seemed to stare at a point just above my left ear. As for Anjou, well, what would be the point of that? Just as bad if you ask me, maybe even worse. The whole family are a pack of wild hounds. They would eat each other for breakfast. Fitz-Empress needs to manage his brood better, Needs to keep them under control. Women behind it all. Mark my words. Walsingham raised his hands and looked at me again. His eyes had recommenced their unrelenting swiveling. It was as if they felt cheated by the fact that they had failed to find my purse. He tugged his moustache and I strained to move my eyes, which were inevitably drawn to the sight. I made a determined effort to stare pointedly at the poster of Stormy Clouds. Lancaster, richest man in the empire, direct line, a royal cousin, solves the financial problems, and already has a large faction of support behind him. Obvious choice. Burley agrees. He concluded, watching me closely, waiting for my reply. Yes, he could do. Money, power, the blood of the royal line, and a man of the warrior class, and definitely not a man to mess with. Yes, I can see why you would choose him over the young brothers or Anjou. I paused for a moment, seeking my way forward, for here was an opportunity for me to influence the influencers. What of Margaret of Brabant, Edward's sister, and the lesser claims of Brittany? They have 2 heirs. Then there is Mary of Woodstock, Norfolk, de Warenne, de Clare. Even Essex has a reasonable claim, not to mention the more substantial claim by his wife and the Devereux family. Like Essex, a good man, and that wife, well, what, eh? Plenty of heirs there, and never tire of trying what? His eyes winked at me, each in turn, like a set of demented traffic lights, and I felt another sharp pain as he nudged me in the ribs. There is no doubt that a conversation with this man left you battered and bruised, and that is without a visit to his infamous torture chamber. What of the bastards? Mary Tudor. A papist. He shook his head vigorously, and I gulped, before laying my offering before his altar, as it were. And the other Mary, Mary Tudor, the Princess of Francia. That would bring an alliance. And then there is Mary Stuart, and there is always the grey girl. Then I let my idea slip into the conversation, and I watched those eyes of his as they continued to orbit. You know, young Bess shows promise. I let it hang there, out in the open for all to see. Lancaster! He spoke with a finality that brooked no gainsay. End of the money problems, and we would have a warlike king again. He studied me for a long moment. You are aware that there are others following you? He didn't wait for an answer, but nodded his head in farewell as he headed for the door. Remember, I need your support at the council. I too nodded my head in agreement in return to him. I watched gratefully as he moved away and exited the Emporium. One thing was sure, I was going to need help. I need a hero. Please press the like icon. It really helps with the algorithm. Click subscribe to be notified of further installments. You can find more information and other videos at mortalcritters.com. The Mortal Critters ebook is available at Amazon, and the paperbacks are available at all good bookstores.